Hi everyone, this is Heather Lawton from the Flourish.Academy. I'm here with my good friend Jen Johnson Nazareth. Hey Jen.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you today?
Good.
Thank you so much for being here. Jen is an agent with State Farm and she's going to answer all of our insurance questions. Give us a little bit of background about who you are, what you do, your story.
Sure. So I started out in social work actually. I was a homeless shelter caseworker. And then I actually went on to work for the Red Cross.
Oh.
And I did disaster and international social services.
Whoa.
So I did crisis management, managed a team of volunteers, and you know, it's really sad because when you go in on a nonprofit side to help people, you give them one check for one meal, one set of clothes, and one night in a hotel.
And that's
you have to walk away, and then, yeah, not a good sign.
Oh, is that what led you to insurance?
To some extent, yeah. I actually came into State Farm through public affairs, and I did media, community, and legislative relations. So I did our grant giving to the nonprofits in the community, and that was great because I got to help really consolidate services out there. But I had a calling to become a State Farm agent. So
it's not often that you hear someone say, "I had a calling to become a State Farm agent."
Yeah.
You're funny.
I was so excited to be here. I came a day early.
Yeah, she did come yesterday. She was so excited. So we talked about. You were so funny. I'm so glad that we met and that I have the opportunity to ask questions on the behalf of people in the Flourish Academy, photographers everywhere who wonder what type of insurance they need. Mm-hmm. So we're really grateful that you could be with us today. Okay, so we're going to talk about, first question is, will this information pertain to any state?
So a couple disclaimers, because we know disclaimers are important. This does not pertain to any state. This is primarily Pennsylvania, but it's overview information. I'm not an attorney. I do recommend, you speak to your individual insurance agent about your particular case. Claims are often determined on a case-by-case basis. So everybody's circumstance is different. Ratings are different. So it's really important. This is more of an overview to help people maybe answer questions, but to some extent it might bring up additional questions.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. At which point they could contact you or they could contact their own insurance agent to get very specific answers. You know what I found about insurance agents? They don't really like to answer specific questions. They always say, well, let's look at this as an umbrella.
Yes.
Let's talk about, and we're very situational. We're like, well, what about this? And you're like, well, we need to address the whole issue.
Yes.
So basically, do I have this right? Basically, and obviously you have to correct me, 3 types of insurance. Is that correct? You have equipment, liability, and then malpractice. Is that?
Yeah, those are some good overview pieces. There's certainly customization that you can do for your policies and adding endorsements and things of that nature. But those are 3 great broad categories to talk about. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I have a lot of friends and clients that are new photographers. Mm-hmm. They're just starting out. Mm-hmm. They maybe have a camera and a couple of lenses. Mm-hmm. When should they get insurance? When should they look into it?
So here's the thing. If you take money, you take $1 for 1 bit of service, you need insurance. And the reason is because your personal insurance policies will not cover you.
Oh, right. As soon as you get money.
Yep, it's a commercial activity as soon as that occurs. And many people feel, and I know a lot of questions came in about pricing.
Yes.
Many people feel like, I'm not that serious. I don't have that much money to dedicate to this. And the question really is, do you have the money to dedicate if something goes wrong and you've got to pay on the back end? I always say you either pay on the front end and you pay a little bit, or you pay on the back end and you have the potential to pay a lot more. So a little ounce of prevention,
I know,
as the saying goes.
You know, it's so true. I've actually read in several of my business books, they say this all the time. You can pay now or you can pay later. Mm-hmm. But if you pay later, the price is always higher. Yes. So if you are accepting money, you need to have, especially liability insurance. But let's take one step back. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're not accepting money. You're a hobbyist. You have a nice camera. You still should get equipment insurance, don't you think?
Yes. I mean, you've made it an investment.
Yes.
Whether it's a hobby or not, you have an investment in equipment. And like warranties, I know there was a question about warranties. They really prevent for mechanical breakdown or the camera just malfunctions, so they're not a bad idea.
Right.
But inland marine policies or endorsements, they provide for the equipment, and they sometimes can provide for worldwide coverage, and they cover it no matter what happens. again,
right.
in general.
Right.
So they're much broader coverage, and they're not expensive. We're talking, maybe $30 a year for a couple $1,000s worth of coverage.
$30 a year. So the message there is stop being so cheap. Pay the $30 a year. Yes. This is if you are a hobbyist, you have some equipment, and you want it to be covered. Now, I had heard, and I used to give this recommendation, oh gosh, I hope it's right. By the way, not a lawyer, not an accountant, not an insurance agent. There's my disclaimer.
Yeah.
I used to say, listen, even if you're not a photographer, you just have a camera, which makes you a photographer, but couldn't you contact your homeowner's insurance agent and get a personal articles policy to protect that?
That's exactly it.
I was right. Okay,
She's
that's
so
good.
You're on your
I think I had to ask somebody that at some point. Like, so if you're renting renter's insurance, or if you own your home, your homeowners, call them and say, hey, I have a couple $1,000s worth of camera equipment because I like photography. What do I need to cover that? They'll say, I'm sure they'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
Here's a personal articles policy. It will add $30 a year or about to your, why wouldn't you do that?
Right. It's just not expensive. And the thing is, the great thing, you can add other things onto that. So maybe your husband has a really nice watch, or your kids have a laptop. Kids and laptops, that can be a crazy thing. It covers them if it's dropped and broken. It covers it if somebody hits a snooze button and the water on the side bedstand goes onto the laptop. These are true stories.
They are. Yeah. So it's happened.
Good to have.
Katie has a question. She says, do you need to be an LLC before you get business insurance? What would you require before insuring a new photography business?
Yeah, so you don't have to have an LLC. You can have a sole proprietorship, and that's fine. And you especially need insurance if you're a sole proprietorship.
Even more so.
Yeah.
Because you're more liable.
Well, you're not necessarily more liable, but your personal assets are more exposed.
Exposed. Yeah. That was actually a question. So we'll just go there now. She said, if someone sues you, can they take everything you own? But if someone sues your business, can they attack you personally? When or not are your personal assets on the line?
So you can't control, and I always say you can't control what somebody sues you or who they sue. So, for example, I have folks that have LLCs, and they personally have involvement, of course. And so typically I do a policy, and it will have both the individual's name and the LLC. So for the same price, I can protect both. And it doesn't cost you any more for that.
I have an LLC, and I should add that I am extremely risk averse. I'm very conservative in my approach to everything. And so I have an LLC, I have contracts, I have insurance, I verbalize disclaimers. You hear me do it all the time. Because I remember when I first started my business, the first thing Craig said to me, he was always supportive, but he said, don't let them take our home.
Yes.
Whatever you do.
Yes.
I don't want our personal assets on the line. So when you are working with clients and accepting money, you should have liability insurance. What if you're working with clients but you're not accepting money?
So that might be more of a hobbyist.
Yes.
And so the inland marine is more a piece of that. And that's where then you should maybe look at an umbrella policy, a personal liability umbrella policy. And what we're talking about with liability coverage is making sure that you have something that will cover and provide defense costs for you if you are taken to court. Right. And secondly, if the court finds against you, that you have a pot of money that is available to pay out, so your personal assets aren't attacked.
If you owe something.
Yeah.
If somebody were to sue your LLC and you were found liable and you owed money, and the LLC had X number of assets or dollars to pay that, but it wasn't enough, can they?
That would be a better question for an attorney.
Yeah,
for how they could circumvent that.
Right.
I think the more layers of protection,
always
the better. And again, being smart about it, doing it in a way, I always say it's like if you buy a pair of shoes and they're the wrong size, you're not going to wear them. That was a bad investment.
Right.
So make sure that you have to understand, how do you get the best fit? How do you get your return on that investment? Right. So liability policy can be as little as $40 a month for a photography business.
Yes.
And that can provide $1 million of liability coverage. A personal umbrella policy can run as low as $184 a year.
These are very reasonable numbers.
Yes.
I mean, nothing you've even said, I mean, it shouldn't scare anyone. Even if their business is not bringing in that money yet, it is peace of mind, and it is critical. Because here's the thing, if you don't do it and something happens, your business is done forever. Or at least for a long time, you are done. So,
and you personally could be at risk for losing the assets you have acquired, or a contributing spouse to the household is making. So you don't want to lose. You have business and a hobby because you enjoy it, and you don't want to end up risking that to lose it.
And you want to protect yourself and your family, because they didn't ask to get involved in your business necessarily. Let me see if there was another question. Connie says, can you get insurance without actually having a business license? Well, I mean, that's basically what we've been saying. Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can, absolutely. You don't have to have a quote-unquote license or anything of that nature.
You would call Connie. Connie's in our area. I would recommend you call Jen, and you explain exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
And then you can help her determine what she needs and what makes sense, and how much it's going to cost. It's not a lot of money, and I think it's definitely worth it. From the minute I bought my camera, I had insurance, even before I was a business.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of money you've invested, and I didn't want to take any chances. And then, of course, when I started accepting money, I was like, woo, high alert.
Yes.
I got insurance.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very smart.
Okay. Let's go back. You mentioned it a little bit, but the question was, when buying new equipment, is it beneficial to purchase an additional warranty, or will damages be covered under an insurance policy? But hold on. Warranties don't cover damage, do they?
No, not necessarily. Again, they're more, from what I understand, in most cases, for equipment breakdown. In other words, that camera, the internal functions stop working.
Yes.
And that's a great way to pair those two things, because the internal function is not covered by, or mechanical breakdown is not covered by a personal article policy.
Right.
Or an inland marine, which is the business version language for our personal article policy.
I know.
So,
you do use a lot of really big words.
Yeah.
Inland marine is a big word.
Yeah.
So the point there is they're not the same thing. Warranties and insurance are not the same thing.
No.
So you probably need both.
Yes.
So the warranty would protect you if the camera malfunctions. It's usually a year. Within the first year, you can buy additional. I guess it's like buying a warranty on a car, and it's also the same thing for insurance. You don't always need it, but it's nice to have it in case you do.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and it's a great thing to think about in terms of auto insurance. We all have auto insurance, because it's a legal requirement.
Right.
And the reason it's a legal requirement is because if you injure somebody in your car, which is easy to do, the state says, look, you need to have something available to pay these people out. So think of the same thing on your business. The good news is the business coverage is a lot less expensive.
Yes.
But the back end cost can be significant. Not just a slip and fall coming into your home for photography.
Yes.
That could be $33,000. Anybody have $33,000? No,
not sitting around that I would want to write a check to someone for $33,000.
No. Right, and that doesn't include the court costs, the defense costs. So your policies typically defend you in the court of law and unlimited. So they will go to court and defend you until the case is settled. And then at settlement, they determine what you're liable for. And that's where the policy is available to pay out. Right. And the interesting thing is, many times when you're buying insurance, you can get banding. So banding is the more insurance you buy, the cheaper it can be. Just like Sam's Club and the toilet paper, right? You get more and you pay less. So it's kind of the same thing with insurance.
You're the Sam's Club of insurance. I love it.
You can get and I oftentimes will run, like somebody will call me and ask for $300,000 in liability, and I say, well, you know what? It might not even be that any more expensive. It might be the exact same price for $1 million. Yeah. Let's try $1 million first, and then we'll compare.
And then Becky says, what if stolen because someone said their insurance covered? What if stolen because someone said their insurance? I'm actually going to talk about that separately, because that's a part of a PPA discussion in terms of mysterious disappearance. I'm sorry, you guys. There was a phone call. Okay, so you talked a lot about cost, which is good. Okay, then somebody was asking about PPA. Can they take everything you own? These are all very general questions about new photographers have a lot of questions. When, and you said now, I mean, as soon as you start accepting money, you should have insurance, and cost of insurance was pretty reasonable. What if somebody sues you? Okay, and the reason this all started to come up was because of the tick situation. I posed the question to you when I called you, if someone is on my property. Now, most of us are on location photographers. A few do have studios. Is that different? Is there a different type of coverage for studio, business studio versus home studio versus, hey, people are just coming to my house to shoot on my property. What if they trip on my sidewalk? What if they slip on the ice? What if they break their ankle? What if they get a tick? What if they get Lyme disease? What if they die? What if?
So it's the same type of insurance, but pricing can be different. So you can get sometimes some credits or lower cost for a home-based business because they know it's not public trafficking area. People are in it, and it's by invite only, typically, versus a retail space in a downtown community. So it can just be differently priced, which is good for you guys that are not maybe making that big investment in a retail facility. Know that the pricing is more reasonable for home.
And this is liability. So if someone gets hurt and they say it was your fault because I was on your property, your insurance, your liability insurance covers that. Covers potential court, covers potential damages if you are found liable. You had said, I like this phrase you used, do you have the duty to protect? And have you breached that duty?
Yes.
And the example you gave was the tripod in the aisle. And will you share that example?
Yeah, so many of you guys have equipment. You have tripods. We're using one right now. They're awkward. They can be set up in aisleways. You have cameras with straps. They're hanging off of church pews. Somebody can easily trip and fall on those. And that does come back to you as a photographer. Were you exercising your duty to properly protect the people that were present from injury? And so that's a very easy case for somebody to bring against you if you have something set up. And you know what? I hear all the time people say, well, I'm not going to have anything to happen to me. I'm not planning to have that happen.
Well, no.
None of us plan
Nobody plans an accident. Right.
And so that's where I always say take a little bit of money, take a little bit of time every year, just review your policies, make sure you understand how it works before something comes up versus after. And knowing the nitty-gritty outline of your policy is important. Can we go over all the what ifs? No. But can you have a good understanding that you have overall encompassing coverage that is going to protect you when those weird things come up? Because they do. And when you're dealing with the public, you don't know everybody that you service.
You can't predict.
You can't. No.
I actually put my tripod in the aisle. So when you told me this story, I was like, ooh. I put my tripod in the aisle and I hold on to it. And when people are walking around, I say, be careful, and I move it out of the way. But I always say, don't trip, because grandma's walking past it. If she trips over my tripod, I did have a duty to protect her, and I breached it because my tripod shouldn't be in the aisle. Now, if she breaks her hip and goes into the nursing home, and you know what happens when an old person breaks their hip? They get pneumonia, they die. Then I could be liable for that, all because I have my tripod in the aisle. So be cognizant of your surroundings. I mean, but you could have, like, we have a lot of children and family photographers here. You could be out in the woods, have your bag sitting there, crazy kid runs, trips over your bag, breaks their ankle, and their hopes are dashed for being a professional athlete, and they sue you for damages.
Those are all real scenarios. They happen all the time. One of the reasons I love my job so much is because it is interesting. There's something new. There's a new case every day. And my staff and I, every day, we get calls, and we're just like, can you even believe that happened?
I've never heard of that one before.
So it's continually challenging, and it's interesting, but it's also scary when you're on the other side of the coin.
Absolutely. It's very scary for us. And I'm sure it should be very scary for those of you that do not have insurance. I would be frightened. There's a sense of urgency here that I feel for my clients, because I don't want to get that phone call that something happened and they're crying and what do I do? Which leads me to the next thing. Going back to equipment insurance. If your equipment is stolen. Okay, well, let me say this. I have two types of insurance. I have insurance with you now almost, and I have insurance with PPA. PPA provides insurance with their membership. It's $323 a year. It is equipment insurance. I printed the policy. Have you ever read one of these?
I kind of do that for my job every day.
Crazy. I've read the policy, Jen. I mean, I'm reading it, and I highlighted a bunch of things because what does this mean? You know, you don't know what it means until you need it.
Yes.
And so I had a friend, I think it was last year or the year before, her house was broken into, camera and lenses were stolen. So immediately she filed a claim with PPA, and when she was filing the claim, I was kind of cringing because I had a feeling. And it was denied. And obviously she was upset. A lot of photographers were upset over this particular incident, and they were saying, why was it denied? Why was it denied? And I said, hey, you guys, have you ever read the policy? Because I have. And I wouldn't say it was fun, but I would recommend it. Anyway, in here the policy says if it is mysterious disappearance. So the police report from her home break-in was classified as mysterious disappearance. As a result, it's not anything personal. PPA looked at the police report. It said that. Their policy doesn't, I mean, it's very, very black and white. So, but we wouldn't have known that until that happened. So as I read through the policy, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I see a lot of what's not covered. What is covered in terms of theft? Because I'm at a wedding, I'm in a ballroom, I have my bag over in the corner. You could easily walk out the door. I mean, I have my equipment that I'm using, but there's other equipment.
Right.
Would that be mysterious?
Well, you guys have equipment everywhere, right? You've got different cameras that you're using. You've got the tripods. You've got other lenses. All of that equipment. It's hard to keep track of it because you're focusing on taking pictures of whatever your subject is. There's a lot of people in and out. So that's a really big risk. You know, this is where every company's policy is a little bit different. So it's important to go back to whoever you have providing the coverage and ask them to give you an interpretation of what do they define. So a lot of this comes down to definitions, legal definitions.
They have pages of definitions.
Yes. So understanding what is their definition of mysterious disappearance. State Farm or my company's definition could be very different than theirs, and understanding that those things that can be very broad range defined as mysterious disappearance could leave a big gap in your coverage. So that's one of the reasons if you have a personal article policy or an inland marine policy with us, that's where that really fills that gap. Mysterious disappearance is covered.
So that is one of there are a couple reasons, but that is one of the main reasons I have two types of insurance. I mean, two entities covering my insurance. Because somebody asked me yesterday, why do you have PPA and why would you have State Farm? Because of those gaps. Because I knew those gaps existed, unfortunately because of my friend's incident, but also because I read the policy, and I kind of picked up on that because I thought, if camera gear walked out of the ballroom, that's absolutely mysterious. And it wouldn't be covered. And that could be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 worth of gear sitting in the corner.
That you worked really hard to acquire over a long period of time. You don't just go out and buy the equipment that you guys have overnight.
It happens.
You do it over time, but it can walk out.
It does.
Immediately.
It actually, I remember several years ago, it was a big problem in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. These giant weddings and these big ballrooms, and gear was just walking out the door all the time. That's a problem. And then it goes on to say what it covers, what they do not pay, weather, water, dropping it. Oh my goodness, there's so many.
I think there's a limitation for water
damage. There is. There are so many words here. Why so many words? And you really just don't know until you go to submit a claim and you're like, oh, I hope that's covered. But talks about coverage limitation in terms of your camera gear. There's the water damage one. And PPA's membership comes with $15,000 worth of coverage on equipment. I have more than $15,000 worth of equipment. So that's going to be an issue. They also have coverage if you rent, which is good because photographers rent a lot of gear now.
Yeah.
So $1,000, you can also get insurance through the company you rent from. So that's good. But this equipment insurance through PPA, none of it covers liability.
Right.
This is not liability insurance.
It is not liability insurance.
Not even close.
No.
So I think some people are purchasing PPA's insurance and the membership because they trust them and they're a fantastic organization. I love them. I've been a member for many, many years. But understand what you have. You do not have liability insurance with PPA.
Right. There are different types of coverage that you need. Just like you're not going to wear pants on your head. You're not going to wear...
It's funny.
Yeah, you use different things in different ways. So an equipment thing is not going to do you any good at all if somebody sees you because they tripped and fell at your home.
Right.
And vice versa.
Yes.
You need to understand what fit you have and what fit you need.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me. What you just said about tripping is... can we talk for a minute about disability insurance? Because if I get hurt, if I break my ankle... If I get back problems or whatever and I can't work, I don't make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a friend right now who has pretty serious back issues and she's working through it because she feels like she doesn't have a choice.
Yeah. So, we've talked about protecting your equipment. We've talked about the liability coverage. That pays other people in the event that they're injured. But we haven't talked about you covering yourself in the event that you're injured. And also, really, that comes down to protecting your family. You may love this, you may do this as a hobby, but you also may do it as a business. And if you're doing it as a business, it's really imperative that you protect the number one thing, which is yourself and your family. Because the other things we talked about, they're minuscule compared to that. You think about your income over 3 years, but then you multiply that out by a couple decades. That is a significant, literally multi-million dollars of lost income if you cannot function. You guys have a very physically demanding job. Think if you have an eyesight issue, you have a hand issue.
My hands are my life.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, doctors that are surgeons do not go without disability coverage because their hands literally are their livelihood. Yeah. And you have specialized skills. Each of you have developed over time really a skill set.
Yes.
And so that is not anything to shake a stick at. It's really important that you protect yourself. And again, just like the coverage for your equipment and things of that nature, you can get something that's pretty low cost that will help manage those expenses. Think about if you are contributing, or maybe you are the only breadwinner in the household. If you can't pay your bills, can you keep your house? Can you keep your car to drive? And it just snowballs.
It's pretty serious.
So it's really critical that you have coverage. I can't tell you the number of disability claims that I've dealt with where people have said to me, Jen, thank God I had it. It saved my house and it saved my family. So it's really... Listen, we all have a duty to protect those that we love and to make sure that our income is continually flowing. If you had a box in your basement and it was spitting out money, would you insure that piece of equipment?
Of course.
Absolutely.
That's you.
That's you. So you need to keep it going.
What does disability insurance run a range?
You can get disability insurance for $30 a month, depending on what you need.
Right. Yeah. How much?
You can have certainly policies that have endorsements and additional coverages that go up from there. But the other thing about disability insurance is the younger you are when you purchase it and the healthier you are, the less expensive it is. And you're eligible. Disability, it's not like you can come to me or any insurance company and say, hey, I want to buy this because now my back's hurting. No, at that point it's too late. So it's really critical that you look at those things, and I would prioritize the disability over equipment. Really.
Wow.
Equipment you can buy and replace.
Yeah.
$20,000. Yeah, that'll hurt. But you're talking $100,000 more, $500,000. You name it. What is your income stream going to miss out on if you're not able to do this? Now, many times you get new skills. You change careers.
You adapt.
Can't do this. You adapt. So maybe you don't need a lifetime disability policy. Maybe you need a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year policy that can help you bridge that gap and that transition should you have some type of disabling issue.
And you know what, to be honest with you, prior to us talking about this, it had not occurred to me. All I knew was that if I didn't work, I didn't make money. But what if you hurt your body? Okay, so let's say that happens. Let's say you have the insurance. Does the injury not necessarily related to work though, right? I mean, you could just be injured and you can't work.
Yeah. You could be in a car crash, and that's one thing. You know, there are even some policies or provisions within your auto policy that are very low cost, like $4 every 6 months is our starting loss of income coverage on our auto policy. It's $4 every 6 months, and it pays $1,000 per month to you if you cannot work after 40 hours of missed work, and it pays up to $5,000, or if you're out of work for 5 months. That helps.
Yes.
Is it going to pay all your bills? No.
Right.
Disability isn't designed to do that. But again, you can match or layer policies to help cover that entire gap.
Yes.
Disability isn't something that the government allows us to really, I mean, because then everybody would be on disability that doesn't want to work. But, you know, it's an important piece of that puzzle, and it really comes to you to help keep your family and your lifestyle going.
So when you get injured, you call your insurance agent and you say, here's what happened, I can't work. Obviously, there's proof of everything that you need, and then you figure out how that continues. That, to me, is really eye-opening.
Yeah.
Because if I don't work, I don't make money, and that's woo.
And some people say, well, I have a spouse, they're the primary breadwinner, that type of thing. But think about the contributions that you do make to the household. Maybe it's taking care of the kids and doing the other household type stuff. You're not only out of work, but you're out of those things, and so that money really helps enable you to keep the household going as it was.
Wow, so, very important.
And again, you could be in a situation where you're not eligible in the future.
Right.
So it's better to get something small and get something started while you have the ability.
That is fantastic information. I hope that everyone is heeding your advice and will call you and say, I need this insurance like yesterday, hurry up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered equipment, liability, and now disability. And the last type I'd like to talk about is malpractice, or sometimes it's referred to as errors and omissions. Can you give us a little overview of that?
Yeah, so let's say you did a shoot, and for whatever reason that they don't like the photos, they say what you did was inaccurate or what have you, it caused injury to somebody. There is coverage in some cases on your base policy, so understanding the provisions within your base policy and what's covered and what's not. So for example, our general liability policy has some coverage if, for example, your files were destroyed and their photos are gone.
Oh, data loss.
Data loss.
Yeah.
Because in one foul swoop, you can have a whole shoot.
Corrupt card, corrupt hard drive.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So there's some coverage for you to recreate the photo shoot with some labor expenses and things like that. Now, are they going to go fly grandma in from
Africa?
No.
Right.
But they can help you at least recover some of that expense.
Right.
The other thing is sometimes you have what's called loss of use, meaning that you can't continue, you're not able to operate. Now that's not necessarily E&O, but that's related within that general liability policy. E&O is you know, think of it as medical malpractice, where you professionally are giving people advice and you're professionally extending yourself, and for whatever reason that advice did not hold up. And so they come to you and say, well, this was your professional effort.
I did it.
It was not, duty, and the breach of that reasonable.
When I very first started my business and I went into weddings, I called an insurance agent. At the time it was a Hartford, and I said, I want the type of coverage that if a bride says to me, I hate my photos, you ruined my life, and I can never work again, I'm suing you. I want covered for that. So for years I carried errors and omissions insurance. Now the reason I say carried, past tense, is because I'm doing fewer weddings, but I recently changed it up because with PPA, with their membership, you get access to their indemnification trust. It is not insurance. It's the indemnification trust, which I printed out. It is essentially malpractice coverage in case something goes wrong that is generally considered your responsibility, such as equipment malfunction, an error, or unsatisfied clients. Now, they use the term bridezilla. I don't care for that word because I've never had anything like that in my life. But what they mean is someone that's unsatisfied. And access to their trust means that you can have access to their law firm, their lawyers, and they will. There was actually a case where they had to fly in people from all over the country to recreate the formal photographs because the photographer lost the memory card. And it was negligence. So it was actually the photographer's fault, and it still covered it. They flew everybody in, they recreated the photos. I can't imagine how uncomfortable that was. But there is a whole document on PPA's website about what the indemnification trust is, what it covers. It also covers digital data loss. We're looking at it. We have it here. Digital data loss, client dissatisfaction, equipment malfunction during a contracted event, although you should have backup equipment for sure. But missed or missing images. So if a client says, you did not get this photo of Aunt Shirley, and I am suing you because of it, that you access their indemnification trust. Failure of a photographer to be at the event, car accident, or you get really sick. Fee disputes, claims of invasions of privacy, model releases, contracts. We haven't talked about contracts, but we should have contracts, right?
Yeah, it just helps really protect you. And that's what this is all about. It's about foreseeing what could go wrong and putting reasonable measures in place to protect you.
Reasonable measures in place. We were talking before we jumped on here. I used to do a lot of boudoir photography in my home. So I would have clients come to my home. I have friends that do this now. And you're alone with this client during a boudoir session. What if that client says that you inappropriately said something? Like, for instance, I would often say to a client, oh my goodness, your décolleté looks so beautiful. Décolleté. But what if she took offense to that and filed sexual harassment against me? What would that fall under?
Yeah, so that would likely be, and again, every case is determined case by case basis, but likely be under the general liability. They're looking at, your behavior and was there injury that was occurred or imposed on the person that's claiming against you. So that's where, again, you've got the insurance there to help pay for defense costs in the court of law, and then if you are found negligent or liable, that there is the money there. So the insurance pays versus you having to take it from your own personal savings account or your checking account. Or
if you don't have it, you liquidate your assets.
Yes, you liquidate the second home that you may have or whatever.
Or your only home.
Oh, there's some limitations. It's they're looking at what are your assets, and this party was injured and you've got to pay them.
Wow.
Transfer that risk. That's what insurance is. It's transferring the risk to somebody else.
And you pay for it, and that's fine. I'm happy to pay for it. It's very reasonable. Because I could think of this for senior photography as well. If you are a male senior photographer and you have a female 17, 18-year-old girl and you are alone with her, she could claim anything. True, untrue, it wouldn't matter because she could make that claim. And that's just so what could that person do, or the boudoir photographer, besides insurance? What other steps could they take to circumvent that, possibly prevent that situation from?
Yeah, again, this is where it kind of goes back to an attorney and advising, but again, it's about having a team of professionals around you that can give you the advice, knowing the type of work that you're doing, and can give you that advice. General things would be a contract, an assistant in the room, always asking somebody before you kind of take the next step, whether that's touching their shoulder, adjusting their hair, maybe having them go into the woods. We were talking and I saw in your post there was somebody that was bit by a copperhead, and my nephew was playing outside and almost was bit by a copperhead. So, risks are out there. We can't control insects. We can't control animals. We can't control somebody's offense to what we do, but we can at least reasonably ask if they're okay and they're comfortable and have a contract releasing you of liability to some extent. Again, a great question to pose to an attorney. Again, I recommend, we all have doctors. We all have that great friend that you go to when. It's the same thing with your professionals. Have a great insurance professional, have a great accountant, have a great attorney that you really feel, and what makes a great person, it's somebody well educated, but it's also somebody that you personally connect and you feel like they get you.
Yes.
So if they don't get you and they're just not really connecting and helping you really absorb the information, they might not be the right person for you. So go out there, find somebody that you feel like will really help connect and really understand what your fears are, because everybody is different. Some people say to me, I'm ready, I'll take my chances. And so,
And then there's people like me who are like, give me all of the insurance. All of it.
Yeah, I have I don't know if we have time, but a great story as an insurance professional. This is a word of advice. I have a business. I have more insurance than God only knows, right? I pay more for my insurance than I do almost on my mortgage. Oh, true story. I had a flyer come in on pet insurance. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm a huge pet person. Yes. I had insurance on my horse, and I had 2 dogs at the time. And I said, you know what, we're going to self-insure. My husband and I are both fully committed to our animals. If anything happens, we'll, pay out a savings. Literally 1 month later, my dog blew her first ACL.
Oh.
A year later, she blew her second ACL. A year later, she came down with cancer. And after that, she went into the ER due to an infection in her lungs. So I will not even go into how much money we spent personally, but it's the thing that you do not have insurance for.
It's what happens.
That will go wrong.
Yeah, you can't predict.
Case in point.
Yeah, you're right. You can't predict it.
You can't.
You can't.
I have coverage on everything except my dogs.
What is...
Now I have insurance on my dog, which, by the way, he has a catastrophe policy. He's the new puppy.
He has a catastrophe
policy. I don't recommend necessarily the ones that just pay for medical.
Yes.
It's just like an HMO versus general.
Yes.
If he has something, he has unlimited coverage, and I pay $40 a month for that.
Oh.
I don't sell that, but again, it's just the point here is
right.
The thing you don't have covered. And the thing that you think you're going to pay for is the thing that will go wrong. So that helps somebody.
That is fantastic. What is the biggest mistake you see us making in the photography industry?
Spending the time to learn and just make some quick decisions with a professional. It's a great industry. You guys are creative. I love the work. I'm a photographer at heart on my little Instagram. And sometimes you think, oh, I'm the creative person. I'm not the person that has the time or the interest or the willingness to go and study this stuff. Literally, spend 20, 30 minutes with a professional once a year, understand what you have, get the right things in place. And I think there's a lot of self-fulfillment prophecy. If you're investing in your business and protecting it properly, your business will grow.
It will.
And it comes back.
It will.
Full circle. So as a business owner for the last 10 years, I'm a big believer in having the right things in place. And you got to spend money sometimes to make money.
You do.
And protect the money that you make.
It's so funny you say that, because the reason your business grows is because you start to feel better about yourself. It improves your self-esteem. You think, okay, I have my business covered. I have my accountant in place. I know a lawyer. That doesn't mean that I call these people all the time. But I love also having a physical person. Like, I can call you and contact you. And when I'm leaving Hill and Usher, they're great, but I don't know them. Mm-hmm. So I love that you're local and I can say, Jen, somebody got, that Copperhead story, that's within the past couple of weeks in Western Pennsylvania.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it can happen. Anything like that can happen, or somebody can claim that they were hurt. It's just a very good idea to protect everything. Is there any last minute, any advice that you would like to give us, and where can people find you?
So last minute advice, we didn't talk about one last piece, which is life insurance.
Let's talk about it.
And it's related to disability. It is a huge passion of mine. My personal story. It's the things, again, that you don't ever think will happen. And many people that are hobby photographers, or they have a side business, maybe it is your main business. Again, you do it to make money in some cases, and that money provides for your family. Just like we talked with the disability, where you have a box that's generating money. That is important in case you die. And if you die and your family is without you, there's a ton of emotional strain, there's a ton of financial strain, and life insurance is something that a lot of people, again, they don't think about it, they don't put that as the top of their priority list. That's an immediate estate. And an immediate estate is there to provide for your family if something does happen to you. So they can be in the place where they can emotionally deal with everything else life is throwing them.
Right.
I have a life policy for my dad. He's not able to get long-term care. He has a back issue. He will need me to help him be cared for later in life. If I die before that time comes, he has a policy that will pay out and allow him to hire a nurse. So again, think big picture about the things that could really change the way your family operates, and then protect against those.
Yeah.
Again, life insurance, it's literally $20 a month for like $100,000.
Yep.
As a business owner that's bringing income into your household, and even if you're not, if you're a stay-at-home mom and you do photography, or a stay-at-home dad and you do photography as a hobby business, think about all the things that you do to contribute to that household. $75,000 is the number that they say annually would be your income if you were a stay-at-home spouse. Think about who's gonna wash the dishes and the laundry and make the lunch and make the dinner and clean the house. So your spouse or whoever's left caring for the kids will need help. So again, it's a little bit off topic, but it's really not. I say that the priorities are the life, the disability, the liability, and then you go down, and the E&O, and then the camera equipment. But everybody comes to me, and one of my pet peeves is they come to me, whether they're, gun enthusiasts, or they're collectors of watches, or they're photographers, and they're like, I want to get my equipment covered.
It's always.
And it's important. Yeah. But the more important thing is the stability that you bring to your family.
Right, absolutely.
So, I'm located off of the Mount Nebo Road exit from 79 and the Camp Horn Road exit from 279.
So nice and local to the Pittsburgh area, but you can insure people in other states, correct?
I cannot.
You cannot.
But you can certainly reach out and find an agent in your local community for sure. There's lots of things you can search online. If you have more specialized business or other business owners, you guys are working and networking with business owners at times too. And, it's really an important thing for everybody to be and pay attention to this stuff, because you don't want to lose what you've
worked so hard for. I love the life insurance. I'm glad that you brought that up. Craig and I both have that. Actually, a book I recommend is called The Legacy Journey. It's by Dave Ramsey, and we have what we call a legacy box. So if I die, this happens. If Craig dies, this happens. If we both die at the same time, then this is what happens. Everything is paid for. My parents get the estate. The kids are taken care of. Because you know what? They're going to be in grief. Yes. And I don't want them to have to worry about money or stupid things. So I set it all up. We're very similar in that approach. We make sure that everything is set up and good, and it's so I can sleep at night.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's peace of mind. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would worry about it. What if that happens and it would just eat in the back of your head? Now, because we have that peace of mind, I would argue that's why our businesses continue to grow, because our brain is sort of freed up to think of more important things.
And it's not hard. This is not heavy lifting you guys have to do. Contact a professional. They'll sit down, they'll do an inventory. Just like your photography professionals, you know exactly what to do, what questions to ask, where to seat people, with the lighting. That's what the insurance person can do for you. They know all that stuff, and all you have to do is tell them what your concerns are.
And they'll take care of it, absolutely. Katie says, please share my information with Jen. I will post all of Jen's contact information everywhere. So I love Jen. You should get in contact with her. If you're in PA, just get the insurance. She'll help you out. It was not expensive. There's really no reason not to. And part of my disclaimer, I tell my clients, if you don't do this, do not call me crying.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't call me crying in 6 months and say, oh, this happened and I didn't do it. I didn't have the insurance. It's the same with backing up their photos. I'll say, make sure you have a backup. Make sure you do online. Make sure you have redundancy. And don't call me when that hard drive fails.
Yeah, like really important piece is thinking about it doesn't mean doing it. No. You got to do it. And the only way you have the coverage is if you pay that policy. That binds the policy. So when you make a payment on a policy, now you have coverage. Just because you have a quote, just because you're thinking about it, no coverage.
No coverage. And if something happens and then I actually several years ago had a mentoring client have an issue with the mother of the bride who was threatening legal action. And I said, did you sign up for PPA, like I had advised? And she said, no, I'm going to go do it right now. And I was like, oh, well, you can do it right now because you should, but it's not going to cover what just happened.
Yeah, it could have some issues.
Yeah,
with coverage.
So make sure you take care of that all on the upfront before it happens. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so grateful. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.